You think you're playing big because you're hustling and doing all the things. And yet, you haven't gone after the big thing that you really fucking want. Yes, I am calling you out. In this edition of Thursday's Thought, I'm inviting you to explore what you're truly capable of achieving and who you're capable of being. Tune in and learn the importance of inner work, an exercise to help you uncover why you haven't gone after what you really want, and the true essence of a great leader. If you're a purpose-driven leader who is ready to embrace your true potential and play a bigger game, I invite you to join me at the Activation Retreat. This is an intimate and profoundly transformational 4-day retreat for purpose-driven leaders that will help you embody your mission, deepen your spiritual practice, and activate your voice and your gifts so you can impact the world in a much bigger way. Only 12 seats total, and only a few seats remain. Apply today at rubyfremont.com/activation-retreat. Now, whether you're new to this podcast or you're a loyal podcast listener, please make sure you take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and a review on iTunes. Now, if you've dropped a rating and a review, please take a screenshot and send it my way via social media. Just reach out to me at I am Ruby so I can thank you and send you virtual hugs. Now it's time to get real, and I mean really fucking real, about your potential as a leader. Welcome to today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. I'm your host, Ruby Fremont, and I'm here as a catalyst for you, the new generation of thought leaders. Join me every week as I dive into raw and real conversations that will help you amplify your presence, influence, and impact. Hey, thought leaders, and welcome to another edition of Thursday's Thought. And my thought for you today is you think you're playing big, but you're not. So this one goes out to you, the purpose-driven leader, the thought leader, the soul who is relentlessly going after your vision and your mission and fighting for your cause. This episode's for you because you think you're playing big because you're doing all the things, right? You're taking all the action, you're busying yourself, your schedule's full. But the reality is you're not playing big. You think you're playing big because you're hustling every day. You think you're playing big because you have clients and maybe you're actually at capacity with clients. You think you're playing big because your products or your programs or your retreats are selling. Awesome. You think you're playing big because you've spoken on stages. You think you're playing big because you've been interviewed on podcasts. You think you're playing big because you're doing all the things. And yet, at the same time, you have yet to go after what you really fucking want. You're still hiding pieces of you in fear of what they're going to say. You've gotten somewhat comfortable where you're at, and it sure as hell doesn't feel comfortable to be there. And you haven't created that big thing that you dream of creating. So you think you're playing big, but you're not. And I want you to get real with yourself right now. Because nothing changes until you acknowledge what needs to be changed. This has been a really huge insight for me. The insight of you think you're playing big, but you're not. And it comes up time and time again. And I know from the outside, it can look like I'm playing a really big game. And yet, what I'm experiencing in my life, in my day-to-day life, is a constant evolution. It's a constant expansion of my potential that happens because I am pushing the parameters of what I once believed to be possible. You see, we have all these ideas about who we are. We have all these ideas about our potential. We have all these ideas about our limitations and about our gifts and about what makes us us. Until those ideas are challenged in some way, shape, or form. And when those ideas of who we are or our gifts, when these ideas are challenged in some way, that forces us to create a different idea of who we are, to create a different idea of what we're capable of achieving, to create a different idea of what our limitations are. And I know you've experienced this too. There have been times when you come up face to face with a limitation, with your glass ceiling, with an edge, and you take action to move past that edge, to bust through that glass ceiling. And you realize, like, holy shit, this is what I'm capable of. This is what's possible when I do XYZ. I know you've experienced this before. This is something that I experience every single fucking day because I am devoted to my inner growth. I'm devoted to coming face to face with my glass ceilings, with my edges, with my limitations, because I understand that this is the only way for me to really and truly see who I am. Right? So if you go back in your timeline to when you were born this completely innocent human being, this completely innocent soul, with no parameters, with no limitations, with no beliefs, nothing. You were a clean slate. And then life happens. And then parenting happens. And then society happens and teachers happen and family happens and all this shit around you, and you're influenced. You take on other people's beliefs, or your experiences, what you experience in life creates these beliefs. Your experience in life help you to create these ideas that you have of yourself, of what you're capable of achieving. These experiences clutter the clean slate that you were born into this world with. You know, this infinite potential that people keep talking about, it's true. And yet, you're not allowing yourself to really experience what that feels like. The reason, like the idea that of infinite potential, I know it can feel a little like out there. So let me ground it in for you. To me, in my opinion, in my belief, what infinite potential means is that we have the potential to do more, to be more, to achieve more. And we'll never really understand the fullest capacity of what that potential is until we choose to dive into it, until we choose to challenge our limitations, until we choose to challenge our glass ceilings, until we choose to challenge ourselves. And if you commit to challenging yourself every single day, you will expand your potential and you will start to experience what you're truly capable of achieving, who you're truly capable of being. And I get really fired up and emotional when I talk about this because I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I wouldn't be the wife that I am today. I wouldn't be the friend that I am today, the daughter that I am today, the sister that I am today, the fucking leader that I am today, if it weren't for my devotion to my inner work, if it weren't for my commitment to challenging myself day in and day out. My message is big and my movement is fucking bigger. You know, I am here to give the world a voice. I know this and I can say this with straight conviction. And I can tell you right now that I am the world's expert in helping people activate their voices. And I say that with absolute conviction. And I can speak with absolute conviction because I am on this dedicated journey of continuously pushing up against my edges and expanding my potential and really understanding what I'm capable of doing and who I'm capable of being. And this is the work that I do with my clients. I've worked with hundreds of people to support them in playing big, whatever that means for them. Because wherever you're at, even though you've achieved all the things, even though you're doing all the things, even though you've spoken on stages and you've been on podcast interviews and you're doing all this shit, even though you're doing these things, let me tell you, there is another level of you that is waiting to be unleashed. There is an untapped version of you that is waiting for you to tap right in. There is so much more greatness within you. And there is always, always the potential for you to play a bigger game. There is always the potential for you to rise up and do more and be more as a leader for your mission, for your cause, for your people, for your audience, for your clients, for this fucking planet. But that starts with you acknowledging the fact that you think you're playing big, but you're really not. So I want you today, right after listening to this, to list out all the things that you aren't yet doing. You know, maybe you've spoken on stages, but you haven't spoken on an international stage, and that's what you really want to do. Or maybe you've spoken on stages, but you haven't spoken at TEDx, and that's what you really want to do. Maybe you've spoken on stages, but what you really want to do is speak on a stage every single month. You want to speak on 12 different stages around the world every single year. You know, maybe you have clients, and yet you want to scale what you've built in a way for you to serve more people. Maybe there's a foundation that you want to create. Maybe there's an organization that you want to design. Maybe there's a charity that is brewing in your heart and you have yet to take action on it. You have to acknowledge these things that you're not doing because of XYZ, because of your self-perceived limitations, because of these programs that you've chosen to take on, because of these ideas that you have of yourself. So list out all these things that you're not doing, and then list out why you're not doing these things. You know, maybe you're not doing a video every day like you really see yourself, envision yourself doing. You really want to up your content. You really want to create a bigger impact and impact the lives of more people. And that involves doing daily videos. And maybe you're not doing that because of your fear of judgment or because of your fear of being seen as too much. Because maybe in the past, your family saw you as too much. I mean, there's so many reasons why you're not doing what you're doing, but what's important is for you to identify what those are. So create the list. List out what it is that you haven't yet done and why you haven't yet done it. Because as a leader, your primary responsibility isn't to lead your mission. Your primary responsibility as a leader isn't to lead your people. Your primary responsibility as a leader is to lead yourself. It's to lead by being, by embodying your message, by doing the work to fucking embody your purpose. That is your primary responsibility as a leader. Leadership is really, it's about playing big. It's about diving deep beneath your programs, your limitations, your glass ceilings. It's about uncovering what's really stopping you from going after what you really want to go after. It's about uncovering what's really stopping you from creating the impact that you know you're here to create. Leadership is about embracing the possibility of your potential. It's about exploring what that potential is, getting curious about it. Leadership is about challenging yourself daily. That's what leadership is about. So don't get shit twisted. This isn't just about standing on a pedestal, holding a fucking mic and speaking into it. Leadership isn't about having a ton of followers. Leadership isn't about the act of doing. Leadership is about being. Leadership is about being in absolute congruence with your mission, your message, your purpose, your vision. And that takes a lot of deep inner work. So despite where you're at, and I'm not dismissing what you've achieved great fucking things. You're doing amazing work, and you have the potential to do so much more and to be so much more. And it's your divine responsibility as a leader to tap into that, to explore what that is. And you do that by challenging yourself daily. You think you're playing big, but you're not. And if you're in that place or where you're ready to play a bigger game, if this conversation or this dialogue that I've just shared on this podcast has inspired you or ignited you in some way, shape, or form, if you are a purpose-driven leader who is really ready to embrace your true potential and play big, I invite you to join me at my upcoming activation retreat this September. This is going to be an intimate and profoundly transformational 4-day retreat for purpose-driven leaders. And my intention for this retreat is to help you really embody your mission, to begin to explore your true potential, to deepen your practice, to activate your voice and your gifts so you can put yourself out there in bigger ways. So you can bust through that glass ceiling over and over and over again, as many times as needed to continue expanding your potential. There are only 12 seats total for the activation retreat, and it is an application process. So if this calls to you, if you are a leader who has achieved a lot and you know that you have the potential to achieve so much more and to be so much more, I encourage you to apply for the activation retreat. Just head to rubyfremon.com/activation-retreat. The link is in the show notes. So let me remind you, you think you're playing big, but you're not. You still haven't gone after what you really want. And it's fucking time for you to do that. It's fucking time for you to dive deep, to uncover what's really stopping you, and for you to embrace the possibility of your actual potential. So commit to challenging yourself daily. Do the homework I suggested in this episode and fill me in on how it goes. Reach out to me on social media at @IamRuby. Drop me a DM, a PM. Just reach out. Share your biggest insights from this episode. Share what came up for you after doing the homework. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Thursday's Thought on Today's Thought Leader, where I am challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If any of this resonates with you, again, I highly, highly encourage you to apply for the activation retreat. Link is in the bio. If you dig this episode, please share it with a friend and be sure to download a few other episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. And finally, check back on Monday for a brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.